All right, man, peace. So, current 147-pound IBF welterweight champion Errol the Truth Spence has a very important fight coming up this weekend against former 140-pound champion Lamont Peterson. This fight is going to be a major stepping stone to Errol justifying his demand for a fight against two-belt world champion Keith Thurman. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in. This fight is going to be a major stepping stone for Errol. He needs to win this fight, and he needs to win it impressively because Keith Thurman is at the point now where he's not going to be able to make any more excuses as to why he wants to avoid Errol. Keith Thurman has stated that Errol Spence has not had enough experience, that he does not have enough fights, that he needs to do more in the ring to show Keith that he's worthy of a major bout with him. Errol was able to get the IBF welterweight championship belt against Kell Brook last year, which was a great fight. Kell Brook, highly skilled fighter, very strong, hits hard. Errol Spence was able to weather it and walk through him in the later rounds. Lamont Peterson, for anyone who follows boxing, knows that Lamont has been in the ring with many of the top names in that area, in that weight class area, from 140 to 147. He's fought Amir Khan, he's fought Tim Bradley, he's fought Danny Garcia. Now he's going to fight Errol Spence. And Lamont is a very dangerous fighter because he's very crafty. He has a lot of heart, and he's going to be in great condition. I believe that he's going to try to put pressure on Errol because one of the perceived weaknesses in Errol Spence's style is that he does not fight well going backwards. Now, Errol does have very, very clean footwork. He has good pivoting. He has a good jab. Goes to the body very well. But I do believe that Lamont is going to try to throw jabs, get on the inside, and push Errol back to try to take away a lot of Errol's power, make him fight going backwards, hopefully wear him down, and get a close decision. Errol is going to have to go to the body early on Lamont and wear down Lamont so that he can no longer use a lot of his pressuring tactics and either get a late stoppage or maybe, a runaway decision. We'll see.
I like that montage and the music. Joining us now is the current IBF welterweight world champion. ESPN ranks him 6th best pound-for-pound boxer right now, and he'll be defending that welterweight title this weekend against Lamont Peterson on Showtime. We say hello to Errol Spence Jr.
How you doing?
Good. Thanks so much for being with us.
No problem.
Errol Spence is that soft-spoken cat that people think they can walk over until they're getting beat down.
All right, before these guys go, because I know they're going to take over, and then it's boxing really going to take over.
Let's go.
Whatever, dude. A lot of people are saying you're next in line to take over for Floyd Mayweather in that welterweight division. How do you think you compare to him now as a fighter?
Well, before Errol begins, let me say this about him in comparison to Floyd Mayweather. He's going to hear a lot of allusions to Floyd because Floyd is the former recognized 147-pound mega champion. So, of course, people are going to compare him to Floyd, but Errol Spence seems to be confident enough in himself and to have a high enough self-esteem to know that he'd be wasting his time trying to mimic Floyd's personality because their personalities have nothing in common. Floyd is boisterous and outspoken and extroverted, and Errol Spence is the opposite. He's a very introverted, laid-back cat. If Errol's able to accomplish what he states he wants to accomplish, which is to unify the welterweight division, which means that he would have to beat Keith Thurman and the eventual winner of the Terrence Crawford versus Jeff Horn bout, he'll no longer have to be worried about being compared to Floyd Mayweather because the media and the boxing fans will accept him for who he is and whatever greatness he brings to the table. And betwixt all that and in between all that, I'm sure that he's also going to have to eventually stare down Danny Garcia and Sean Porter. I don't believe that he's going to have to worry about Danny Garcia right now because Danny Garcia is more worried about staying afloat as a relevant contender in the welterweight division. And therefore, he does not have to worry about Garcia calling him out or trying to engage him in any internet hijinks. Danny Garcia's team is smart enough right now to know that he cannot afford to lose another major fight. He just lost to Keith Thurman last year. Danny's supposed to be fighting Brandon Rios, who we all know is pretty much washed up. So that tells you where Danny Garcia's head is at. Sean Porter will be a threat to Errol because of Sean Porter's rough and tumble style. And Sean Porter has shown the ability to walk through hard punches. He was in there with Keith Thurman and was able to weather the storm. That will be a major test for Errol Spence, most likely sometime later this year after he beats Lamont Peterson, because I'm sure that he's not going to be getting in the ring with Keith until next year. From what I understand, Keith is coming back from an injury, and he's not even thinking about Errol right now.
I think I compared him a lot. I mean, Floyd was an amazing fighter, especially starting out in his career. And, I've been doing the same thing. I'm about getting belts. I want to be undisputed welterweight champion of the world. And it starts this Saturday versus Lamont Peterson.
Why this guy? Why Peterson?
He was the only guy available. I just didn't want to fight just anybody. I didn't want to showcase fight. I wanted to fight, a top contender, a top guy. And Lamont Peterson, he's tough. Some people say he beat Danny Garcia.
That was definitely a close fight. That fight could have went either way. I think that Lamont got started a little late, but he easily outboxed Danny in the latter part of the fight. Danny Garcia has very slow feet. Yeah, and he has to get set to throw his jab. So, Danny's one of those guys that he likes to hook off on you. If you stay within range, then yes, he could hurt you. But top-level boxers, he's not going to be able to outbox them because his feet are too slow.
So I wanted to fight a guy that I can show my skills against.
Keith Thurman wasn't available? I mean, he's got 2 of the belts. You got the 3rd. He wasn't available?
Do your research, Steve. Keith Thurman just had a major surgery on his elbow, and he's not trying to get in the ring with Errol Spence. Some think he's not trying to get in the ring with Errol Spence in general, but he's certainly not trying to get in the ring with him coming off of surgery. You're a reporter. Do your research, brother.
Nah, Keith Thurman wasn't available. He didn't answer the call.
He didn't answer the call. You heard that, Max?
That's a fight. That's a fight that's going to marinate before they make it into a big fight. And let me ask you this, Errol, because I ask guys like you, and by guys like you, I mean special talents, this question whenever I have fighter meetings with them, Terrence Crawford, Vasily Lomachenko, when you survey the landscape, and I'm not just talking about other good fighters, because real super fights can't be promoted into existence. Dust settles, 2 dudes are left standing. Mayweather, Pacquiao, Ali, Frazier,
We
right?
know you know your
Leonard
boxing.
Hagler. The point is, I'm talking Errol Spence.
Ask the question. We
No,
know
you
you
know what I
boxing.
do.
Ask
You
the
do what you
question.
do. You do what you do. Point
what I
is,
do.
when you survey the landscape, who do you see that's another special talent? So when the dust settles, you think that's going to be my super fight.
Now, it's very obvious that Max Kellerman is trying to do what he normally does. He tried to do the same thing with Kyrie Irving. He asked a question that he believes is going to elicit a certain answer based off of what he personally thinks. Because, as usual with the liberal sports media, they have a narrative. The narrative for Max Kellerman is that Terrence Crawford is going to be the biggest threat for Errol Spence. So he wants Errol to answer Terrence Crawford.
I think the super fight right now is me and Keith Thurman. I have a belt. He has 2 of the belts. So why not unify? I feel like, that's the best fight right now. That's the easiest fight to be made. We both had the same managers, fight on the same network, so why not do it?
You sound to me like you saying that Keith Thurman is avoiding you. Is that what you're saying on national television?
Well, I'm saying I've been calling out Keith Thurman since I was 15 and 0.
Oh.
It's time to fight. At first he said he was going to bust my hot air balloon, and he said everybody was gassing me up. And he had nothing to prove by fighting me. I have a belt. He said he wanted to be undisputed and capture all the belts. So why not start to try to get my belt?
Errol, I'm not talking about, Keith Thurman's a good fighter. He's a very good fighter. He's talented, he's accomplished, and he's won some tough fights. But when I say super fight, I'm talking about that dude. That's going to be my legacy fight.
Well, he just answered Terrence Crawford. Pardon me, he just answered Keith Thurman. So if you want him to say Terrence Crawford, why don't you just ask him, do you think that Terrence Crawford is your number 1 opponent down the line? Instead of you trying to get him to say what you want him to say, why don't you just ask a direct question? You asked the question already, and he gave you the answer of Keith Thurman. So now you're going to try to ask it again because you don't feel like his answer fit your criteria.
Because he's like me. I'm a special talent, and he's just a little different than everybody else. Who is that guy in or around your weight class? Because I have an answer for that question. I think Stephen A. has the same answer. What's your answer to that question?
He just answered the question. Once again, he said Keith Thurman. This is why, once again, this is why he got so frustrated with Kyrie Irving when he was trying to get Kyrie to admit or acknowledge that he and LeBron had some type of a beef. Kyrie was ready to move forward, and Kyrie saw right through it. And Max could not get over the fact that Kyrie refused to satiate him with that ridiculous, silly question. Now watch how Errol responds, because Errol already knows what Max Kellerman is trying to imply.
I mean, I really just don't know right now. For right now, it looks like Keith Thurman. I really don't know right now.
You don't see
I know
Terrence
what you're trying
Crawford?
to get to. You're probably trying to say Terrence Crawford.
Yes.
You know, that's fight's gonna happen. Hopefully he beats Jeff Horn and gets that belt. And like I said, I want to be undisputed welterweight champion of the world. So when he does get that belt, we can make it happen in the future.
Also, please understand that Terrence Crawford is property of ESPN. When I say property, meaning his fights get broadcast on ESPN. So Max Kellerman has a lot invested in Terrence Crawford as an asset. And don't get me wrong, Terrence Crawford is a great fighter, but he still has to prove himself at 147. That Jeff Horn fight, I don't believe is going to be as easy as people think. If he makes it look easy, then that's another feather in his cap. Because Jeff Horn is a very rough, rugged fighter. He's going to be a guy who's going to take a lot of punishment. He's a very big welterweight. And to be quite frank with you, Terrence Crawford's opponents have not really impressed me. I'm not saying that he's not a great fighter, but his opponents have not really impressed me. I mean, other than Victor Postal, that's probably the only guy that he's fought who I thought was going to give him a tough fight and really didn't give him a tough fight. All these other guys are nice fighters to good fighters. It's going to be a whole different kettle of fish, quote unquote, when he gets to 147. He has to deal with fighters like Sean Porter and Danny Garcia and Errol Spence, Keith Thurman. It's a whole nother level.
Terrence Crawford, I spoke to him on a couple of occasions over the last few months. He expects to handle his business against Mr. Joe Horn. He wants Keith Thurman himself, but he also wants you. How do you feel about the fact that he wants you?
I mean, that's what he's supposed to want. I mean, he's a fighter. I'm a fighter too. That's what fighters supposed to do. You're supposed to want the top guys. You're supposed to want the guys with the belt. I expect nothing less from Terrence Crawford but to want me.
But
like
Keith, do you see... Sorry, Keith. Errol, do you see Terrence as different from the other guys? When Stephen A., when a lot of boxing people, fans, media experts, even other fighters, look at guys and go, Errol Spence, different. He punches, like the way he punches, the hand speed, the athletic ability, the heart, etc. But Terrence Crawford, also a different kind of cat.
How would you know if he's a different kind of cat? Have you been in the ring with him? This is the difference between somebody who is a television expert as opposed to someone who's a real boxing expert. You would think that once you ask Errol Spence this question the first time and he answers Keith Thurman, then even if you wanted to promote or push Terrence Crawford, that you would just ask him a direct question to supplement the initial question. You're still trying to get him to conform to your narrative. Just be direct with it. Obviously, Errol Spence does not hold Terrence Crawford in as high an esteem as you hold him in. And with just reason. He has not done anything at 147 yet.
Do you see Terrence as qualitatively different from other fighters in and around your weight class?
I see Terrence Crawford different at 140. I don't know how he's going to do at 147. 147 is different. It's a different type of animal.
Absolutely. I don't even know if Terrence Crawford could beat Kell Brook. Kell Brook is a big, strong dude, man.
We're bigger, we're stronger, we're faster than a lot of guys at 140. I don't know how he'll do at 140.
Hold it.
He hasn't proven himself at 140.
Hold it. Are you trying to say that Terrence Crawford, listen, forget about fighting me. You need to show that you can handle the other cats at 147 before you even think about me. I don't want to put words in your mouth. Is that what you're saying, Errol Spence Jr.?
That's what he just said. I mean, shit.
I think so. It starts out with Jeff Horn. He needs to worry about beating Jeff Horn and getting that belt first.
Absolutely. Take one step at a time. People could sleep on Manny Pacquiao all they want. Manny Pacquiao is still a great fighter, and Jeff Horn gave him hell. I thought Pacquiao won, but the fight was very, very competitive. And I expect the fight with Terrence Crawford to be competitive as well. If Terrence is able to walk right through him, knock him out in 4 or 5 rounds, hey, all credit to you.
Before he's talking about lining it up with me and Keith Thurman.
What's your suspicion about that fight, though, Errol? What do you think is going to happen in it?
Look at this guy. There's clearly something wrong with Max Kellerman. Number one, he's an old ass fanboy. Number two, it's very obvious to me just looking at his face that he's on some type of amphetamine. He clearly is an amphetamine addict. I don't know what it is. Allegedly, I don't know what it is, but he's clearly hooked on something. Just looking at his damn face, he's overly hyper for no reason.
The Terrence Crawford Jeff Horn fight.
I mean, I see Terrence Crawford. Terrence Crawford should outbox him. I mean, Terrence Crawford should outbox him and beat him. But Jeff Horn, you know, he's a rough, rugged fighter. I mean, Jeff Horn always comes to fight, but I think Terrence Crawford should win that fight.
Is there anyone else other than Keith Thurman? Because based on what you're saying to me, Keith Thurman's avoiding you. If Keith Thurman's avoiding you and Lamont Peterson doesn't handle his business like I suspect he won't this weekend, who else is out there for you?
Well, after I handle my business January 20th on Showtime this Saturday, you know, you have guys like Danny Garcia.
He's good.
Guys like Sean Porter.
He's good.
You got guys who's proven at 147, and you know, guys who are tough. I mean, Danny Garcia did the same, basically almost the same thing, except being undisputed welterweight champion that Terrence Crawford did at 140. So I mean, you got a lot of guys at 147 that I can prove myself.
But you want Keith Thurman, and you would be fighting them because Keith Thurman is avoiding you, according to you. Is that correct?
Definitely. What's that?
Errol,
He's answering all the calls.
Absolutely, and everybody knows that Errol has been calling out Keith Thurman for a very long time. Even Floyd was trying to help him. This was during the time that Keith was trying to talk himself into a major payday with Floyd, and Floyd wasn't giving him the time of day. And you know, a lot was made of that whole issue with Floyd and Keith Thurman, where many of the online or the internet boxing experts were trying to allege that Mayweather was quote-unquote ducking Keith Thurman. The reason why Floyd Mayweather fought Andre Berto is because Andre Berto was on the list that Floyd Mayweather had made out to fight even before he got incarcerated. There's a feature that Floyd did called, I believe, 50 Days in May or something like that, right before he got locked up. And he had a list of fighters that he stated that he wanted to fight. I think that this took place right after the Cotto fight that he was reading off that list. And of course, he mentioned Pacquiao. He mentioned Andre Berto. And he stated that he had some unfinished business with Andre Berto, whatever that was. Well, that's the reason why he fought Andre Berto. He wasn't thinking about no damn Keith Thurman.
Everyone could see the talent real quick. Everyone could see the talent. It's obvious. And now you actually do have some good wins in the division because guys have gotten in with you. You want to prove it against Keith Thurman. Is there anyone else at 47 who you go, I want that guy just to put the pelt on my wall and prove that the kind of the resume matches up to the talent?
Well, right now, he has to stick to who's in front of him. He has to worry about the fighter that's coming up, you know, this Saturday. That being Lamont Peterson. If that's not his focus, then he's going to get caught off guard. Lamont Peterson is a serious threat. Once again, Lamont reminds me a lot of Kenny Norton, a fighter from the 70s who was a serious threat in the heavyweight division and who would beat you if you were not mentally prepared because he came in great condition. He was limited as far as his skill set and his foot movement, but Kenny Norton was very, very dangerous. He just could never beat the top guys. The only top guy he really ever beat was Ali, and that's because Ali was having orgies before the fight. Ali was sleeping with 6 women at a time and playing around on the golf course with Howard Cosell. Hurt his hamstring, and plus, he did not take the fight serious and did not come into the ring in shape, and that's why Kenny Norton beat him around the ring, broke his jaw. But just to get back to the point, Lamont is a fighter that if you're not on your P's and Q's, he will beat you. And it doesn't matter how big your name is. And I'm sure that Errol Spence understands that. So that's where his focus needs to be, not who he wants to fight 5 fights down the line.
Right now, you know, my total focus is Lamont Peterson January.
Good answer.
January 20th. But after that, you know, my ultimate goal is to get that fight with Keith Thurman. I mean, he has 2 of the belts. Like I said, I want to be undisputed welterweight champion of the world. Nothing's going to deter me from that.
Good for you, brother. I hope that you accomplish your mission. Because, quite frankly, Keith is fucking around. Keith looked like he wanted to move to Tibet and play a flute.
So after I fight Lamont Peterson, after I beat Lamont Peterson,
you got to beat the best,
beat
right?
the best.
We got to let
Every
you
shit.
go because I hear you got a busy schedule. But
Yeah.
I'm glad you're answering all the calls. Can't wait
Thank
for this weekend. Then Keith Thurman, you'll be back visiting us again. Errol Spence, we really appreciate it.
I will be calling Keith Thurman. I will be calling him.
Stephen A. has something more to say about Chris Paul.
So go ahead and call Keith Thurman then, brother. Hopefully you'll get some information, because if you'd called him before this interview, you would have known why Errol Spence could not fight him in this bout. But anyway, we'll see how far Errol Spence is able to ascend in the boxing world. I'm sure that the brother will get very high because his talent level is exceedingly great. I just hope that he does not exhibit any hubris in the ring that could get him clipped. But we'll find out. Anyway, peace.